Alright, so now I want to look at the top 20 greatest scorers or offensive players in NBA history. And I'm looking at just the top 20 scorers here. I'm not looking at the top 20 all time. Not talking about overall players. I'm talking about just scorers, just offensive players. Not going to talk about defense or anything. And basically, I'm going to talk about this because there's LeBron's career high in a game is 61 points, right? That's how much the highest he's ever scored in a game. And I want to find out, how does LeBron stack up against other NBA scorers in history? And for this ranking, I'm not looking at career totals. If you look at that, you can easily go to Basketball Reference and you can see that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the greatest scorer because, you know, he scored the most points, and you can easily see that's an objective list of who scored the most points in NBA history. I'm not looking at that. That's pretty easy to find out. I'm looking at a more subjective list of accounting for like injuries and stuff, because I know that a lot of good players, a lot of good scorers, they get injured. Tracy McGrady, Bernard King are good examples of players, or Pete Maravich are good examples of players who had really magnificent seasons, but they got injured in their prime, and then they couldn't really keep up with other players. So I want to focus on this so I can clearly rank players a little bit better. Looking more at their peaks, not their whole entire career. So I'm mainly focusing on their best scoring seasons, and I'm being a little subjective here. Best scoring seasons, I'm accounting for scoring over 25 points or over a game. So number of seasons that they've scored over 25 points a game, and the number of scoring titles they've had. So that's how I'm using to rank this. And applying this heuristic, let's see what we get. So I have top 20 scorers here, applying this kind of heuristic, and I want to make some honorable mentions to Tracy McGrady, T-Mac, Pete Maravich, Dwayne Wade, Bernard King, Larry Bird, and Dr. J, because while they've had some pretty good scoring seasons, it just wasn't enough to compete with the following 20 players I'm going to name. Okay, and I know that these guys, they really had a bad break because they got injured during their careers. Well, not Dr. J, but the rest of these guys, they had pretty short careers because they got injured, and they couldn't really score as much as before. But I just want to make honorable mentions because they did have some pretty magnificent one-season careers. All right, so we're gonna look at the top 20. Number 20 is going to be Alex English, and I'm posting 4 different things for these players here. The number of scoring seasons of 25 points or greater, number of scoring titles they've had, and their true shooting percentage, that's accounting for like free throws and everything, and their best season scoring average, which is their peak, basically, their peak season. Okay, so Alex English, number 20, he had 8 out of 16 seasons total. He had 8 of them, basically half of them, scoring 25 points or greater. He has 1 scoring title, 55% true shooting percentage, pretty good. And best season scoring average, 29.8 points per game in 1986. So that's Alex English, number 20. Number 19, Bob Pettit. He has 7 out of 12. Most of his career, 7 out of 12 scoring seasons, 25 points or greater. 2 scoring titles, only 51% true shooting percentage, and best season scoring average is 31.1 in 1962. So that is number 19, Bob Pettit. And number 18, Rick Barry. He has 8 out of 14 number of scoring seasons, 25 points or greater, 1 scoring title, 5.25 true shooting percentage, 52%, best season scoring average, an astounding 35.6 points per game, which is one of the highest all time. This is 1967. And I think Rick Barry could have been higher on this list if he didn't jump to the ABA. I think I'm only accounting for, I am accounting for ABA actually, but yeah, he did lead the ABA in scoring too, but yeah, just wasn't in quite enough because he dropped a little bit down later in his career. Rick Barry, number 18. Number 17, Oscar Robertson. Most people think of Oscar Robertson more as a point guard and assist person, but Oscar Robertson could score just as well as anybody. He had 9 out of 14 seasons scoring 25 points or greater. Doesn't have any scoring titles because this is when Wilt Chamberlain was basically dominating everyone. True shooting percentage is pretty good, 56%, and best season scoring average, 31.4 in 1964. That's the year he won MVP. So Oscar, number 17, and Elgin Baylor, number 16. 8 out of 14 seasons, scoring 25 points or more. Again, no scoring titles because he was playing when Wilt was playing. Not a very good true shooting percentage because Baylor is not known for being a very efficient scorer. He wasn't a very efficient, but his best season scoring average, 38.3, is one of the highest in the game in NBA history, 1962. So that's that's just like right below Wilt Chamberlain's 50 points per game. Elgin Baylor scored 38 points a game. That's really, really good. Number 15, Adrian Dantley. So yeah, I think Baylor has one of the best peaks ever. Baylor and Barry probably have one of the best peaks ever. But yeah, number 15, Adrian Dantley. 8 out of 17, scoring 25 points or greater. 2 scoring titles, an astounding true shooting percentage of 62%. I mean, Adrian Dantley was one of the most efficient perimeter players of all time. Because his career efficiency, he has one of the highest efficiencies of all time of a perimeter player, I think. Best season scoring average 30.7. That's 1981. Number 14, Bob McAdoo. 7 out of 17 seasons scoring 25 points or greater, but he has 3 scoring titles. Not a bad true shooting percentage, pretty good, 55%. And the best season scoring average is 34.5 in 1975, the year he won the MVP, which is also one of the highest of all time. All right, and number 13, Carmelo Anthony. 9 out of 12 seasons of 25 points or greater. And yeah, this is definitely almost his entire career he scored 25 points, which is incredible. 1 scoring title, 55% true shooting percentage, and 28.9 is his best scoring average. This is in 2007. So it's Carmelo Anthony. All right, Kevin Durant has 4 scoring titles. He's clearly the best scorer of his generation. 6 out of 7 seasons, so almost his entire career he scored 25 points or greater. Just 1 season he didn't score 25 points. Yeah, 4 scoring titles, true shooting percentage 60%, which is really, really good. Almost as high as Adrian Dantley, actually. Best season scoring average is 32. That was just in 2014, two seasons back. So yeah, Kevin Durant. Right, LeBron James is number after Kevin Durant. So people don't think of LeBron James as a scorer, but he is actually one of the best scorers in NBA history, actually higher than Kevin Durant, because 10 out of his 11 seasons he scored 25 points or greater. You know, that's even more than Kevin Durant's 6 out of 7. 10 out of 11, man. Oh, wait, 1 scoring title. He doesn't have as many scoring titles, but he's just been a very consistent scorer. True shooting percentage 58%, not as good as Durant, but still quite good. Best season scoring average 31.4 in 2006. Alright, and then Shaq is after that. Number 10, Shaq. 10 out of 19, half his career he scored 25 points or greater. 2 scoring titles. True shooting percentage is really good, 58%. And best season scoring average was his magnificent 2000 season where he dominated everyone, 29.7. Alright, number 9, George Gervin. 8 out of 15, almost basically a little bit more than half his career he scored over 25 points or more. 4 scoring titles, it's tied with Iverson and Durant. True shooting percentage is 56%, which is pretty good. And best season scoring average 33.1 in 1980. Right, George Gervin, number 9. Right, counting down from there, Dominique Wilkins, number 8. He has 11 out of 16 seasons scoring 25 points or greater. He has 1 scoring title only, but he is easily the best scorer of the 80s, I think. True shooting percentage, 54%, not quite as good as the other guys, right? Just average. And then best season scoring average is 30.3, which is in 1986. Alright, next up after that's Karl Malone. This is the second greatest scorer, the second highest scorer in NBA history here. 12 out of 19 seasons he scored 25 points or greater. Doesn't have any scoring titles because he was playing when Michael Jordan was playing. And then true shooting percentage is quite good because he's predictably he's a big man, so he's going to be a little bit higher than the perimeter shooters here. So 58%. Best season scoring average is 31 in 1990. Alright, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar after that, the greatest scorer in NBA history, the top scorer anyways, and 10 out of 20, so half his career he scored 25 points or greater. 2 scoring titles. True shooting percentage is almost 59%, so this is one of the best all time. Because he's a big man, he has a skyhook. You know, you would expect him to be pretty efficient. Best season scoring average 34.8, which is 1962. That's his MVP season. The best per ever, I think, was in that season. So that's Kareem, number 6. Number 5, let's go down to Allen Iverson. 11 out of 17, scoring 25 points or greater. 4 scoring titles. True shooting percentage 52%. Again, not that great, but Iverson was never a very efficient shooter. He is a really good scorer though, so that's why he's up here at number 5. But in terms of a good shooter, he wasn't a very good shooter. Best season scoring average was 33 in 2006, which he didn't actually get because of a guy later on I'm going to mention. Alright, number 4, Jerry West. 11 out of 14 seasons scoring 25 points or greater. That's pretty incredible. Number of scoring titles is just one, but he was playing when Wilt was playing. So true shooting percentage 55%, which is pretty good, better than a lot of perimeter shooters. And best season scoring average 31.3, which is in 1966, and he did this all the without a 3-point line, by the way. So when talking about Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, Rick Barry, they made these scoring titles without any 3-point line, and George Gervin too. No 3-point line in their time. So just keep that in mind. And number 3, Kobe Bryant. Here we go. 12 out of 18 scoring seasons, 25 points or greater. 2 scoring titles. A pretty league average, 55%, but again, better than Iverson and a lot of other guys. Best season scoring average was 35.4, which is one of the highest of all time. It's just below Rick Barry, Elgin Baylor, and Wilt Chamberlain. So yeah, that's pretty good. 2006. So I think in the modern era, Kobe Bryant has had the best peak. Yeah, I think out of all the modern era, we're talking about like 2000, 1990s. Past that, Kobe Bryant has had the best peak shooting season. So that was the same season he scored 81 points. All right, number 2, Wilt Chamberlain. So no surprise here, Wilt Chamberlain has to be, top 2 scorers of all time, because this guy averaged 30 points a game. Number of scoring seasons, 25 points or greater, 9 out of 15 seasons. Actually, Wilt Chamberlain, I believe, played only like 13, 14 seasons. But anyways, 9 is pretty good. 7 scoring titles when he completely dominated the 60s. True shooting percentage, 55%. Again, that's just average. It's actually below Kobe Bryant, surprisingly. The best season scoring average, and I think the reason why is because his free throws were so bad. His best season scoring average was an astounding 50.4 in 1962. This is the highest of all time, and a lot of people know that Wilt Chamberlain scored 50 points a game, and has the single highest season scoring average of all time. So there you go. All right, number 1, and this is no surprise here, Michael Jordan, number 1. 12 out of 15 seasons, just 3 seasons where he didn't score 25 points or greater. These are the 3 seasons he played with the Wizards, so that's really not surprising. So accepting his rookie season, even his rookie season actually he scored over. Yeah, just accepting the seasons he played with the Wizards, he pretty much scored 25 points or more his entire career. He has the highest. He's tied with Wilt Chamberlain for the highest career scoring average, 10 scoring titles, which is the most all time. True shooting percentage 57%, which is incredible. That's a really good true shooting percentage, despite the fact that he shot all the shots. He was a volume shooter, but really good shooting percentage. Best season scoring average 37.1. That's really one of the highest all time. So yeah, I think Kobe actually has a 5th, I think. Yes, Wilt Chamberlain has the highest, 50.4, and then it would be after that would be Elgin Baylor, I think, in 1962, 38, and then Michael Jordan, 37.1, then Rick Barry, and then Kobe Bryant. So yeah, if we're talking peaks all time, then Wilt, Jordan, Elgin Baylor, Rick Barry, and Kobe Bryant, they had the best peaks as a scorer of all time. And there you go, that's the top 20 scorers of all time, according to looking at the number of scoring seasons of 25 points or greater, number of scoring titles. All right, so I also compiled a list of the most dominant seasons of all time. I looked on basketballreference.com and I went through all the legends, and I compiled a list of the greatest single seasons of their career, and I call this the most dominant seasons of all time. I'm only looking at players after 1977, which means because the reason for that is because the NBA and the ABA merged after 1976. So during 1977, that's when the level of competition got higher, and the rules of the game essentially changed a lot after that. And we're going to take a look at these modern day players. That's why I don't have Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, Oscar Robertson on this particular list. But we can take a look at who the most dominant modern players of all time. You can see this list. I compiled it here. I basically took their points per game, rebounds per game, assists per game, steals per game, and blocks per game, added them all up, and I ranked them. And according to Bill Simmons, if the rank is over 42 total, then that means it's an all-time great season. And it's a bit surprising when I compiled this, because I found some players this year actually are having very historic seasons, which is very interesting. So obviously Michael Jordan is at the top, his 1989 season being the greatest of all time. And then Shaq in 2000 also had a very, very dominant season. And then you have other very interesting seasons as well. David Robinson, Moses Malone, Larry Bird, Hakeem, LeBron, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who will actually be pretty dominant before and after 1977. Kobe, Karl Malone, so the list goes on here, but then you find some very interesting things here, like Russell Westbrook from last year. Wow, he's on the list. He's actually better than Charles Barkley's and Allen Iverson's greatest seasons of all time. If you look at Magic Johnson, he's all the way down here. And Russell Westbrook last year actually had a more dominant season than Magic Johnson's best year in 1987, which is very surprising. Even Kevin Love is on here, which is very surprising. You know, I put Kevin Love on here because he was on ESPN's top 100 players of all time. I put him down here, and wow, he actually does pretty well because he actually had one pretty great season. Stephen Curry, he's on here as well this year, and then some other guys this year are on here as well. Had DeMarcus Cousins, James Harden's on here. That's pretty amazing. Like I was pretty shocked that those guys are on there. And yeah, that's it. These are all the guys over 42 on the list, and then some other guys that didn't even make it. Yeah, other guys that didn't even make it, but you have the other guys are pretty well represented on here. But I'm just really surprised and shocked that like DeMarcus Cousins, Kevin Love, like in the top, they're in the top 30. Yeah, top 30 seasons of all time, which is pretty amazing. After 1977, so that's pretty shocking to me that they would be up here on this list. And then I have them numbered by position, so you can see that obviously Michael Jordan's the greatest shooting guard, and then Kobe Bryant. Tracy McGrady's on here, which is pretty interesting. He actually had a really dominant season back in 2003 and 2004. And then you have the rest, usual suspects. And then centers, you have a lot like Shaq, David Robinson, Moses Malone, Hakeem, Kareem. They're all on here. Ewing, and then you have you know, Larry Bird actually having a better season than LeBron James by a little bit. His 1985 season slightly better than LeBron James' 2010 season. Power forwards, Karl Malone actually comes ahead, and Garnett. They both come ahead of Tim Duncan. Even Chris Webber came ahead of Tim Duncan, surprisingly. I guess because this making a ranking like this is really good for looking at a player's peak season, right? You can see how good a player was during his peak, but it kind of punishes players like Tim Duncan and John Stockton who didn't really have a peak. Like they were just consistently good. Or Dirk Nowitzki, right? That's why they're not on here, because they were just consistently good, but they didn't really have one year where they were just so much better than everyone else. That's why they're not really well represented here. So Tim Duncan, I chose 2002, but really a whole bunch of years like that I could have chosen. But for other guys, these are essentially their peaks. That's why Tracy McGrady at his peak was incredible. Russell Westbrook at his peak was incredible. Chris Webber at his peak, Bernard King at their peak. They were incredible players. That's why they're on here. And I guess DeMarcus Cousins and James Harden qualifies as well. So that's pretty interesting. And a whole bunch of other players as well that didn't really make the 42. But yeah, pretty interesting. And then just for kicks, I have another list of players that were before 1977 as well, just to see, and you can see just how different it was. I mean, just look at this list, man. Right? Wilt Chamberlain, obviously he's on top because he's the king of all stats, right? 50 points per game, 25 rebounds per game. How can you beat that? Right? He has a whopping 78, which is like the most all time. But just look at how different the era was before 1977. Look at these rebounds, man. 25 rebounds, 18 rebounds, 16 rebounds, 19 rebounds. Like, these rebounds would be like impossible in today's NBA. Almost impossible. Like, especially Wilt, Russell's rebounds, Jerry Lucas. I believe Nate Thurman, 22 rebounds a game. Like, that's incredible. And then the points per game score, like Wilt Chamberlain scored 50, Elgin Baylor 38, Rick Barry with 36 almost. That's pretty incredible as well. Only the assists kind of make sense in today's, but assists were not very, were kind of more stringent back then, I think. That's why the assist numbers seem a little bit low compared to today's NBA, but the points and rebounds are, yeah, they're pretty high. Especially look at this season, right? 1962, like you have 5 of the top 10 seasons of all time in 1962. Like, what happened that year? Did the league change the rules for something? Like, why did so many players have their best years in 1962? I don't get it. Wilt had his 50-point game. Elgin Baylor had 38 points a game. Oscar Robertson averaged a triple-double. Bob Pettit had his best season. Walt Bellamy, who was a rookie, averaged 32 and 19. That doesn't really make sense to me. Like, 62, man. Bill Russell also had his best season, too. There must have been something weird going on that year. Or something. I don't know why. That year is like crazy. And then you have some other guys down here. But yeah, that is my ranking, like most dominant players of all time, and pre 77 and then after 1977, because the eras were so different. If you want to go pre 77, you can clearly see that Wilt Chamberlain, Elgin Baylor, Kareem, Oscar, Bob Pettit, all these guys had incredible great stats, but the stats aren't really comparable to today's NBA. And I added some ABA players in here as well. George McGinnis, for example, Spencer Haywood, for example. Those are incredibly great players. I believe I have, yeah, even like Connie Hawkins, you know, all these great players are down here. And then after 1977, it's a little bit surprising because I look at all these legends, and some of today's players, like DeMarcus Cousins, I have no idea that he would be up here on the top all-time, number 30 best seasons of all time, you know. It's crazy. So that's pretty interesting. Yeah, actually these guys. But you know, it's not all in stats, I know that, but it's just for fun. I just compiled this list of stats and see who had the best statistical seasons of all time. And yeah, this year James Harden, Steph Curry, and DeMarcus Cousins is up there, I guess, and I guess Russell Westbrook would be too. And surprisingly, Damian Lillard as well. Where's Damian Lillard? He's somewhere around here, somewhere. I think he's actually, wait a minute. Oh, here he is. He's above John Stockton this year. Pretty surprising to me. So Damian Lillard this year is having a better year than John Stockton's best year. But you know, that's not saying this. That's because John Stockton has had really too many good years to really count. So if you add their careers all together, I guess you can take the total number of stats per their career. But we're talking peak seasons here. So yeah. Anyways, that's the most dominant players of all time. You can see their seasons here on the chart, and let me know if you guys have any questions about my rankings. So today I ranked the top 20 greatest scorers of all time, and then the top most dominant single season statistical performances of all time. And yeah, and oh yeah, I don't have steals or blocks per game per pre-77 because they didn't really have it back then. But yeah, that's it. Let me know if you guys have any questions or comments, and I'll see you guys next time.